Yeah, I mean, I always have those ups and downs. And I think you do too. You know, like where you're just like, you just go weeks without thinking about anything creative at all. You just want to be a potato because you're like, I don't feel any feelings. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you again for joining me on another episode of the new Creative Spotlight. As always, I'm your boy Chris, bringing the amazing creatives from around the world straight to you. Before we jump into anything, make sure you follow us on Instagram at CreativesNearU and subscribe to our channel so you never miss any of our future content. Today, we have the pleasure of talking to my man, Brian Ng, aka Bing, the creator of Bing Box Artography. He is an amazing photographer and filmmaker, and he has graced us with his presence today. Bing, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh man, that's too much. It's too much praise, bro. I appreciate it, bro. It's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor to be here, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure, bro, for sure. As always, the first thing we want to do, obviously, I know you. We've known each other for a couple of years now, but we want to make sure the audience knows about you. So please let them know who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
All right, so my name is Brian Ng, and I'm from New York. I started my photography career in New York. And that was about, I would say, 6 or 7 years ago now. Started with photography, and now I'm also into videography since like 2018. I've been doing a lot of that freelance. I've been working for a bunch of different types of companies, big and small. I've worked for celebrities, divas. I've worked for education companies. I've worked for Japanese brands, advertising, that kind of stuff. So I've done all sorts of stuff here and there, whatever I can get my hands on, basically.
Sure. Absolutely, man. I mean, you are a man of many talents, and you are so good at everything you do. I've always had a great respect for your work. Obviously, a couple of years ago, you took my first family photos. Thank you again for that. Those photos will live on forever in our albums and on our wall. So yeah, for sure. Dude, like, you are so good at what you do. The first thing I really want to get into, and the thing I personally would want to know, is what type of equipment do you use to get some of the stuff that you're getting these days? Because I mean, the quality of the work that you put out is so high, and I just really want to know like what it is that you're actually using to accomplish that.
Right. So when I first started, I was using Canon DSLRs, Canon 7D, Canon 5D Mark III. that was more in like the phase of like, I need to be a real photographer. I need to have a really like serious camera, serious lenses, that kind of thing. And then as I started to shoot more and do more photography, get more into what I really love doing, I kind of started honing my choices down. And so now I use, I've gone through multiple cameras, video and photo, but right now I'm using a Sony a7 III. And it's been my daily driver for the last like 3 years or so now. And it's been a great camera. It's basically like, I've narrowed my camera down to that camera and 3 lenses. And I've basically been using those 3 lenses over and over for every job for the last like 2-3 years now. Sony lenses, Sony kit.
Yeah, that's great, man. I mean, that's one of the big things that I believe in, especially in the modern era, is that the equipment that we have access to right now is so high, you know what I mean? And not just is it high, the affordability has gone down significantly, where it's actually within our grasp. And the things that I really see out of the work that you do is just like, I would compare it to any type of professional marketing or advertising campaigns that I ever see anybody filming. And I think the big difference is a couple of years ago, that type of quality of work wasn't achievable because either the gear was too expensive or the cameras weren't as high quality. So I think that that's kind of really pioneered us to put us in the position to make the type of things that we create now at a level that is that is achievable for us.
I absolutely agree. I think that having like equipment is great. I mean, but the barrier to entry now is so low that's like anyone can do it. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that like the more photographers we have, videographers, musicians, whoever, like everything is so accessible now. Like, I mean, people can get video and audio equipment, like you're into audio equipment, like stuff is so accessible to creators now. And you were talking to Remy a few episodes back, and like drones themselves. Imagine getting like movie cinematic quality drone footage 10 years ago. No one could do that.
Insane. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's really, it really has ushered in the new era of what's possible. And I think what also pairs into that is the educational resources we have. I think the fact that people have things like YouTube, and you have such a saturation of people that can go onto these places and say, hey, you know, you don't got to read the manual to learn about this. This is the actual way that you do this. This is how you tweak these settings. This is how you, you know, exposure and all these different things that you can do with these this equipment. And I think that that has also lent itself to people becoming way more proficient and being able to create quality work that is actually, you know, of really value. You know, so on top of just the gear that you're using, you know, you've made a big move, obviously, from New York, and I believe you're in Vietnam now, right? Is that correct? So you made that big move, and that is such a huge cultural shift from coming from a city like New York to this, you know, beautiful landscape and this different type of environment. Has that move over there, has it kind of changed the way that you work? Has it kind of enlightened you to any new experiences that has, you know, influenced your art thus far?
I would say in terms of like getting work, I would say maybe it's a little bit easier here. Although like generally around the world, because like you said, of the accessibility to equipment now and everything, there's a lot more photographers out there, you know, like, and that's not just in New York, but that's also in Vietnam and anywhere else, China, everywhere else. So I would say like in some ways it is easier to get work here just because the market is not as mature as it is in New York or Los Angeles or something like that. But at the same time, it's difficult to convince an immature audience per se to pay more for a quality product. Right now, like the media quality is not, you know, up there with Hollywood, let's say, or like even, you know, the fashion studios in New York, right? So it's more difficult for people to digest like a higher price for a higher quality of work. And that's where that balance comes in, where like, are you doing this professionally to make a career? And if so, are you going to take this job even though you know it doesn't pay as much, you know? Or are you gonna like just suck it up and you're just gonna, you know, do it, but then maybe regret it, you know? You're not really sure, you know? You have to kind of find that balance of like, who are you as an artist as opposed to who are you as a professional, you know, and making a living off of this.
I think that you really touch on a nerve there with that whole premise, because one of the things that I kind of find with most creatives, especially those who are trying to develop their catalog and develop a portfolio, is that they find it really hard to strike a balance between how do I kind of put a price on the type of work that I do versus how much do I do for free or how much do I do for a lower cost than I believe it's worth, just in the interest of getting the experience and the, you know, notoriety and everything. You know, was it, now that at the level that you are now and kind of the exposure you've had, has that changed significantly for you? Like, do you value the price of your work higher now, or do you still kind of do work for the love of the art?
I would say, I mean, I think for any artist, it's like, it's always like you said, it's still balanced. It's so hard to say like, you know, yeah, of course I charge more now for my work because I have a larger portfolio, right? And I have more experience and I know that I'm more valuable. But sometimes you kind of like, as any artist, is just like, you're not even sure if your work is good enough. You know, even some of the biggest artists out there, you know, selling like multi-platinum records and stuff, they're just like, I don't know if people are going to like this album. You know, like you're still unsure about this and you're like, is it worth this? Or is it worth people paying this much money for it? And I think that is still a struggle for me. I've slowly, gradually like raised my prices. But there are certain jobs where I'm like, okay, I'll like say a lower price just so I guarantee that job because I really want that job, you know? Right.
Well, you know, I think that seeing the quality of work that you have, and obviously we're going to show it in this interview, I mean, I think that anybody would pay the money for just the things that you create. Just because like I said, I'm not just saying this because I know you, I just think that the way that you kind of you use angles and you use slow-mo and you kind of really create a sense of dramatic experience with some of your shots. You've taken really ordinary images and you've been able to kind of make them really amazing and really cinematic in their own way. And a really talent that I think you have as well is that you have the ability to kind of bring the most out of people that aren't necessarily comfortable with that format. Like when we did our shoot together, my wife and I, and Sage, obviously she's a baby, but we weren't really used to being shot and everything, but you gave us the freedom to kind of just walk around and say, just be yourselves, and I'm going to just get the moments,
Right.
And I think that's a really unique trait of any photographer and filmmaker, that you can kind of find those beautiful moments in what you're doing.
I really appreciate that, especially because I find that in my work, I focus a lot on people, and I focus a lot on getting to know the people that I'm shooting and getting to know their characteristics and, what they're into, what their interests are, what they're not into, what makes them comfortable, uncomfortable. Not only that, but also the actresses and actors I work with, it's like, I get to know who they are as a person so I can know how to work with them. But then I have to, kind of twist that into their character as well, And so like, I really appreciate you saying that, just because I find myself analyzing people a lot, and I love thinking about how people think and how people view other people. I love capturing like humanity in general, more so than, let's say, landscapes or objects or, general beauty. I like that raw feeling of capturing people in general.
Yeah, and it shows, man. I mean, it shows. It really does show in your work. What I've been seeing a lot of your work of these cinematic pieces, do you have a team that you're working with these days? Do you have a couple people that you want to shout out as far as people you've met along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I've met like some great people along the way. Like I work with a partner mostly, Anthony, and that's who I run Inphimous Studios with. We're mostly just like a freelance, like we just do whatever we can get our hands on, basically. But we've been working together since I basically started filming. He went to school for directing and screenwriting, and I was self-taught in terms of like camera work and like equipment and that kind of stuff too. So that's why I've been director of photography. And so we find people who we can collaborate with. We find friends who are willing to help. When you're a small studio, you just kind of get all the help that you can get,
Right. Of course. I mean, you got to grow that network. And that's kind of like what we're all about here with Canoe, is just the idea that, the resources are all out there. And there's so many people that are really strong in a particular skill or in a specific area. And then if you kind of find those people and develop a network of people, a team, you actually can develop something really special, a studio, organization or anything, and create really quality work that is of value. I have a specific gear-based question for you, because I as well am trying to increase my understanding of, video capturing technology. I'm trying to experiment with different types of cameras and stuff, not for as high quality stuff as you do, but just for when I go out into the world and I meet people when I'm talking about Canoe and stuff. What is your opinion on stabilizers / gimbals or things like that, and lighting? Like, do you have any particular taste or preference to them, or do you like to just keep it really natural?
I think this question comes up a lot for photographers and videographers. It's the question of what kind of gear do you use, and what kind of like what do you use to get this shot and stuff. And as a student of the art, like everyone's always asking, and we always want to know, right? I would say that, and I teach this in my university class as well, that everything that you do is for the shot, basically. So everything that you do and everything that you use is for the shot. Every single type of stabilizer, gimbal, drone, whatever you're using, is all to serve the story. And so if you feel like that equipment, whether it's janky, or if it's like really high quality or really smooth or whatever, if that serves that feeling, that moment, then that's what you use. It could just be like a camera on top of a cardboard box, if that's what serves that purpose. You know what I mean? So like, I've used all sorts of equipment. I've used like my equipment, which is like, it's like amateur professional equipment. It's not like super crazy, but I've also used cinema cameras, the cameras that they use like to film like 1917, or like, I've used that same camera as well. And it's all about knowing your craft and knowing how to operate the basics of photography and videography, and then putting that into the picture. It's all for the story.
Yeah, I think that's one really cool thing about all of this generation as well, is that people are getting so experimental with the way that they use the gear that they have. Like, the quality of like an iPhone camera is, outstanding. And people find really amazing ways to actually make the most of that camera and shoot, full movies or shorts or things of that nature. Yep. And I think that's really, like we said earlier, really kind of lends to this new generation of creation where everybody has the potential to create something. And I think a world injected with that much creativity and that much access is really going to pioneer a whole new generation of art and creation. Limitations in the creative community is like the number one thing that really stops people in their tracks sometimes.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
I think that in this era, with all these things that we have at our hands, I think it really is important that we continue to kind of evolve and adapt to like the new things that come out and the new technologies we have.
Right. I mean, the thing is that people used to have this taboo, like artists used to have this taboo of like, we're not supposed to, like, we're supposed to keep our industry secrets, only if you like made it, then am I going to tell you how I did it? This isn't like, but right now it's not really like, I'm not a magician, right? I'm not trying to learn like a magic trick and you're not telling me what it is. Like everything's so accessible and it's so much better for like art and competition and in general, like just the whole aspect of art in general. Like it's so much better that more people are getting more creative and they have the ability to do that, like without even thinking that they did, like you said, with an iPhone or whatever it is, like they're allowed to be creative and it's okay. You don't have to judge like, okay, I'm a better photographer than you. Like it's great that people are even making art.
Yeah.
And that's going to advance us.
100%, man. It's really great that this is actually happening and that people like us can actually have a conversation across two different mediums of creation, because I also very much believe that, every creative demographic kind of interconnects with each other. I mean, there's value on all sides. It used to be that, musicians only knew musicians or producers, and it was kind of all very singled off to each other. And one of the big beliefs that we have is just that through your entire creative process, you're going to go through multiple creative checkpoints of, and you're going to have to know people in other type of creative fields to give you music for your project, or to shoot a video for your music, so anything like that. And I think that the more access we have to those type of resources, the more likely we are to continue to create our projects to completion and actually do all the things that we want to do with them. Hitting walls is the worst, man.
Yeah. I mean, for any creative.
Yeah, for sure. So, I spoke a lot about the work that you've been doing, but I really want to hear from you about it. Like, what are some of the projects that you're really passionate about right now, or some things that you've done in the recent memory that you're really excited about?
Well, okay. So I sent you earlier, I sent a video that I did with another director and filmmaker, Christina Rabago.
Yes.
Which you also know. And she's phenomenal. She's just an amazing character in general, and she's a great person, and she's just so unbelievably talented that it's just like blows my mind.
Yeah.
Like she started off as an extras actor, and then she decided that I'm going to write my own script. And now she's like writing scripts for fun, and then she made her own movie. Yes. And she hired a crew and did her own thing. Like, come on. Like, so I'm so happy and honored to always be in contact with her and watching her progress and having the ability to create short films with her. So I sent you that.
Yes.
And then the project that I did earlier this year was just like a passion project. My wife and I, Gabby, we were making cookies for fun, and we were just like selling cookies. And I was just like, hey, I have an idea. I talked to Anthony, my partner, and I was like, I want to make an ad for these cookies. And he was like, all right, yeah, let's make a short film. And so we just went out and made a short film, and that was the first film and project that I made fully in Vietnamese. And that's a big step for me as well, so like learning all the ropes of having a slightly bigger crew of our own and managing all that kind of stuff, learning from all my mistakes. Like that was a great like learning experience for me. It's a huge project for me as well. It took like month and a half. And it was just, I mean, that's something I'm really proud of. And there's a lot of mistakes in that film, but at the same time, it's something that like we created ourselves, and I'm really happy with that. Anything else? I've been working with another like production studio, bigger one, and recently I just did an ad for a Japanese like appliance company, and it's like a multi-million-dollar appliance company, and we just did an ad for them. So I was the director of photography for that, and got to use cool big cameras and equipment and the whole crew and everything, and I got to call the shots, and it was just a lot of fun. And hopefully I'll do more of that, because that's what I'm more interested in. I'm really interested in creating stories in advertising, because that was my major in college, was marketing.
Oh, okay. Got you.
Yeah. And I learned photography and video by myself on the
Mhm.
side. So like my passion is actually combining those two things and being able to tell a message and give like these subliminal hints of like product, but also like having audiences understand why like these things are meaningful to them,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, dude, I think that's great. And I love that you said that because it's so great when I see someone that's taken a passion that doesn't necessarily relate to, on paper relate to the art they create, but they find a way to kind of marry them together. And I
Mm-hmm.
love that because that's kind of like what we did with Canoe, where I, started as a musician, producer, and then I kind of saw that there was this need for the creative communities to actually connect with each other. So I kind of took those two passions and kind of figure out a way to make them work together, and which I think is what you're
Right.
doing with that. And then also like the thing I wanted to ask you was like as far as your future ambitions and everything. So you want to kind of eventually transition to be able to kind of shoot more like advertisement based things that kind of really have this human element, I assume, because that's kind of what you like to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really great because that's kind of what you see all of marketing transition to. They're very, very much
Mm-hmm.
more like human based, very much more really pulling the heartstrings sometimes, even if it's not necessarily deep, related product. So I think
Right.
you're right. I think you're right on that same path.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so excited because of that, because things are leaning more towards storytelling. We have more outlets and more opportunities to tell stories through basically anything. Things don't have to be black and white. They don't have to be like a normal ad anymore, and that's something I'm really passionate about, like transforming,
Yeah, absolutely. Do you see like, let's jump in a time machine real fast and let's travel 10 years down the line. Let's just say where is, Bing Box Artography, where is Brian Ing at 10 years from now?
I mean, hopefully still directing short films, still directing advertisements, being part of like big creative teams, and kind of being able to share my vision and my hard work in terms of like studying the craft and that kind of thing. Director of photography for almost like any project I would love to be. I'd love to be there alongside like a great director or something like that. Whether it's like a small short ad or like a full-on short film, a TV series, like that's where I want to be.
Absolutely, man. I mean, dude, you are absolutely on your way, and I expect nothing but great things from all the things you create. Do you eventually have, and are you anticipating that you're going to be staying in Vietnam for the foreseeable future? Do you ever want to kind of come back and try to see what you can do out here in New York, or do you kind of feel like you've found a niche and you want to stay out there and continue to build upon that?
I mean, there's multiple reasons why I would want to stay here, in terms of like family and things like that as well. But I think being here and seeing the creative industry grow here, I think it's really amazing to be part of that, because although like things in the US, they're what you would call mature, right? Of course, they're still pushing the envelope with, CGI and things like that. But seeing like a country find its own way in terms of like videography and film and things like that, and trying to figure things out and being part of that and being able to contribute to that, I think it's really fun and rewarding to be part of that here, and that's why I see myself here for a little bit longer.
Super exciting, man. Yeah, man. I see you right at the beginning of this amazing, evolution of this entire region that, has such beauty already naturally in it. And I think that it's really awesome that someone can come from a whole different part of the world and come there and try to find, a way to really bring that out and give it exposure. So, I mean, dude, if you found a way there to do that and you're bringing the most out of it, then I would say 100% stay there and keep pushing on with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, man. Dude, you are such an amazing person, and I've always had so much respect for your work and respect for you as a person. So I am so grateful that you took the time to be here with me today. Make sure you follow Bing and check him out on all the social media links that we provided down below. And make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter at CreativesNearU. That's CreativesNearU for all the amazing things we have coming your way. There's so much goodness coming your way, and we cannot wait to let you guys know about it. You do not want to miss out. You want to be the first person to know about it. As far as this video, you know what you need to do. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Make sure you leave us a comment. Make sure you just do whatever you can to spread the word of what Canoe is about. as we are trying to change the landscape of the creative communities around the world. As always, I'm your boy Chris of Canoe. Make sure you always connect, collab, create.